Good evening and welcome to episode 64 of the Jacksonian. I'm yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I have with me is the co-host of Locked Dog Wolfpack, the one and only himself, Grayson Boone, as we'll be going over our take on North Carolina State men's basketball. Are they going to get Will Wade? Are they not going to get him? What's going to happen there? And what does this mean for Dave Doreen for North Carolina State football? We'll be going over all that on episode 64 of the Jacksonian. And let me tell you something, folks. It's going to be a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
Jax, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back. I can't believe it's almost been a year since the last time I was on here. Much different terms a year ago. NC State was coming out of the Final Four. Nowhere close this year, sadly, but hopefully with some news here coming possibly at the end of this week or maybe early next week, brighter horizons for NC State basketball.
Oh, man, it was like first time you came on, like we had you on last year. It was pretty fun, and, I figured, you know what? We'll have some fun again. Like it may not be fun for NC State, but it's like we're gonna make this bad period fun for Grayson. That I can promise you.
I tell you what, we are not forgetting last year's run anytime soon. We're still living off all that excitement, even though it was, I guess, a year ago now. It's hard to believe an entire year has already passed, but nobody's forgetting DJ Burns and Raleigh anytime soon. I can promise you that.
Nope, especially when there's a 30 for 30 documentary or an ACC network documentary. Hey, who knows?
They pulled that. It was supposed to happen. I think it was a couple Monday nights ago. It was actually the Monday right after Coach Keats had been fired on Sunday. They pulled it and they announced that they're going to hold on to it until a later date. No idea when that is, but I was waiting on pins and needles to watch that thing. Haven't released it yet.
Oh man, I'll be looking forward to tuning in. And for those who don't know enough about Locked On Wolfpack or don't know enough about you, should I tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So we are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're a daily podcast. It's myself. My co-host is Kenton Gibbs. He's a former defensive tackle for NC State. So it's really cool to see kind of a behind-the-scenes look of NC State football, especially during football season. He was in Coach Doran's first recruiting class ever at NC State. So he's been here essentially as long as Coach Doran has. It's every single day, Monday to Friday, cover NC State football, NC State basketball. I like to dabble in some NC State baseball too. I'm a baseball guy, but predominantly it's football and basketball. And now that those two seasons are over for us, we're talking about coaching searches. We're talking about the portal, anything and everything NC State we cover on our show.
There we go. That's the way it goes. And, schedule's freeing up now because it's like, NC State's out. I mean, I was watching a little bit of Iowa Hawkeyes live the other day from Iowa at the Voice of College Football of Mark Rogers and Corey Bratta. And it was like a few weeks beforehand. It was like Corey was like, oh, well, my schedule may open up on account of the fact that Iowa men's basketball wasn't doing so hot and the women's basketball was not doing so well as well.
I tell you what, if we're talking about schedules opening up because the team's not doing well, my schedule's been open up since about December because NC State men's basketball was a travesty this year. We missed the ACC tournament, just no semblance of an offense, a defense, really anything. And it was a far cry from what we expected this team to be this season. It's been a struggle. Actually, conversely, the women's basketball team is going to be the 2 seed in the women's tournament. They have been a wagon. They were very nearly champions of the ACC tournament. They lost to a really good Duke team, but a lot of the NC State fan base has been hanging on the women's team because they've been having so much success, and the men's team is nowhere to be found. So the women's team's been carrying the fan base for a lot of the spring so far.
Oh, man. It's like it looked like things were going to be all right, I guess, at the start of the year. But then, like you said, the season just was falling apart in December.
It really started to unravel when we played our non-conference P4 opponents. We played BYU, we played Purdue, we played at Kansas. I was actually in the house for that one. Really cool to see the environment, but NC State obviously could not get the job done. And then we actually also played Texas. That one was in Raleigh, and we went 0 for 4 against those 4 opponents. And so when you're a team like NC State and the ACC's reputation, it kind of is what it is right now. You can't afford to drop not just, 3 of those games, but all 4 of them. So they put themselves in a hole really early before ACC play even began. And then when you finish bottom 3 teams in the conference, well, the whole season's a crapshoot. So it was every bit of a disaster of a season for NC State. And we focused a lot on trying to carry the momentum of going to the Final Four and winning an ACC title First time that either of those two things have happened in over like 35 years for our school. And to fall so flat on our face after a moment like that, it's really tough to swallow. And so I guess we'll get into it here shortly, but that is ultimately the reason that Coach Keats was released a couple Sundays ago. So we're in the middle of a coaching search now. That's what a bad season will do for you. But yeah, definitely a disappointing year in Raleigh.
1-11 from New Year's Eve to February 12th.
You're telling me. It
Uh,
was disgusting to try and keep up with, and especially the later games you see on there. We had Cal and Stanford having to stay up until the wee hours of the night just to have your soul crushed in the final couple minutes.
I'm
It was brutal.
I'm sure the band was all over the field at Cal when they beat NC State. Like, really, you're flexing beating NC State? Come on.
It would have been more exciting, that's for sure.
Oh man, it's like Virginia. They're a dung heap. Wake Forest, complete and total disaster that falls short.
It's funny. We actually beat Wake Forest there the last couple of games of the regular season. I can't even explain to you how in the world that happened. And we might have ruined Wake Forest's tournament chances in doing so. I mean, they lost a couple other key games down the road as well. But I have no analysis as to how NC State was able to win that game. But it's nice to knock off Wake Forest, especially ruin their season, because they've done it so many times over the years to us.
Oh man, like, I mean, if you're gonna go down, you might as well go down swinging. Die on your feet. Don't live on your knees.
Yeah, the smallest of silver linings was potentially keeping Wake out of the tournament.
There you go. It's like, oh no, that's what did it. That's what got Keats fired right there. That loss to pitiful, pitiful, pitiful Miami. It's like, no.
That one felt like the cherry on top of the cake. I mean, we had actually been told, myself and Kent and my co-host, for the majority of the year, don't expect any coaching changes to be made, regardless of how bad it gets, because Keats just did something that no one has done at NC State in over 35 years. And in doing so, he triggered a ton of extensions, a ton of bonuses, and a lot of money was going to be tied up in him. And you can't really expect NC State to pony up the buyout to do that. But I think some of the comments that Coach Keats made along the road about some of the NIL resources that NC State was dealing with this year, and then when you lose to a team like Miami in your last game of the regular season, see ya. That was definitely the end of the rope.
I mean, it was like, I thought I was going to see like a vote of confidence announcement like the next day or something like that. I didn't think I'd be hearing firing. It's like you said, you and Kitten did not expect. I mean, nobody did. Nobody
yeah, a lot of us were kind of gearing up for one of those statements, and it definitely would not have gone over well. But when you look around the rest of the ACC, like Syracuse, for example, they were trying to get rid of their coach, but they announced that he'll be coming back. Same thing with Steve Forbes and Wake Forest. And NC State fans are like, are we come on? Are we seriously going to do this too? And then to our surprise, that Sunday morning, Keats released his own graphic that he had been released. And he also said at the very end of it that he'd be entering the portal. I found that pretty funny. But yeah, it's I guess it's on to greener pastures now for NC State. They've been in the middle of a coaching search for the last, I guess, week and a half. Will Wade has been the name most heavily connected to NC State. There's been a lot of buzz around, State and Will Wade. Obviously, McNeese is in the NCAA tournament, so we're kind of waiting on pins and needles to see when this thing will go public if it does end up finalized. But we have reason to believe that there's palpable buzz there.
Oh yeah, I mean, because like I hear like Brad Crawford from 247 Sports is say like it's gonna happen. I'm hearing a lot of people say it's likely to happen. If McNeese State is upsetting Clemson, I feel like that's really gonna help them in a way. It's like McNeese State making a surprise run, like boom, like NC State getting them, like that's a win right there.
It's funny because NC State fans are almost feeling the exact opposite. So we kind of have a past of being burned very badly in coaching searches. Like, for example, I think it was back in 2006. We thought that we were getting John Calipari, and that those negotiations were nearing the goal line. At least we were told, and it all kind of fell apart. Obviously, he doesn't come here. Then we tried the very same with Rick Barnes. Didn't work out. 2011, it's, I guess, unofficially official that we had come to an agreement with Shaka Smart when he was with VCU. He took them to the Final Four. He was going to be the head coach at NC State, but his team kept winning, and so he became a hotter name, gets to the Final Four, and then he decides ultimately to stay at VCU and keep, working on his own tenure, building up his name. and NC State lost out on all 3 of those guys. So we're kind of waiting with bated breath. And for that reason, NC State fans are hoping that Clemson will actually beat McNeese. And so that frees up Will Wade. And then hopefully you can announce publicly that he will be the next coach here.
Well, and if they don't get Will Wade, who would be on that list?
So a couple of the other names have included Justin Gainey. He is the associate head coach at Tennessee, essentially like the head coach in waiting. That name is relevant to NC State because he was a point guard at NC State way back in, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s. So he's very well liked in Raleigh, obviously has a very solid pedigree. He was a player at State. He was an assistant at State to begin his career, went on to, do amazing things currently at Tennessee with Rick Barnes, one of the top programs in the country year in and year out. The only hang up, I think, and I think I speak for a lot of NC State fans when I say this, the real hang up between really addressing Justin Gainey is he doesn't have actual head coach experience. He's never been the head man of a program. Associate head coach is kind of close, and I'm sure he handles a good deal of the recruiting, but he's never been the actual head coach. That gives NC State fans a lot of pause. It makes us a little bit nervous if it were to come to that. So I can tell you firsthand, the fan base has gone all in, like 2 feet, 10 toes down, that Will Wade's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool if Will Wade can go to NC State. Because, I mean, like for me, in my opinion, it would be kind of like Bruce Pearl at Auburn, where it's like Bruce Pearl at Auburn, where it's like at that time, beforehand, he got fired by Tennessee, like forced to resign, which essentially fired. NCAA's all mad because he went to some player's barbecue or invited them to a barbecue, something like that. But they got all mad, which dumb move by Tennessee by giving in. But hey, worked out in the long term. Bruce Pearl at Auburn, winning, boom. So
I think he's doing all right for himself now, huh?
Oh yeah, he's doing just fine.
Yeah, it's funny you mention a name like Bruce Pearl because NC State, for a head coach, we've desperately craved like that fiery personality, a very loud, boisterous person who knows exactly what he wants in a program, knows exactly the type of player he wants, the system he wants to run. And I had this take. It's a little bit of a hot take on our podcast, but I kind of compared Will Wade's personality to that of Jim Valvano. And we haven't had a similar loud, very personable type of coach since Jim Valvano. We had Herb Sendek, we had Sidney Lowe, we had Mark Gottfried, and we've had Kevin Keats. All great guys, great personalities, but they haven't had that edge to them. Not that anyone's really comparable to Jim Valvano anyway, but I think Will Wade has an edge to him. He's very, aggressive in the players he wants. He's very aggressive in how he wants to run a program. And he's had a little bit of a shady past, and that's given some people some pause as well. But he has that edge that NC State really lines up with metaphorically. And so I've seen some of the national pundits basically say this feels like a match made in heaven. I can tell you NC State fans feel the exact same way.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, it's like getting fired by LSU because of NCAA investigations.
Yep.
It's like, but then he's rebranded himself at McNeese State. And, if he was to go to North Carolina State, it'd be huge because, like you said, he's got that edge since Jimmy Valvino.
I think something you'd see around the ACC is the rest of the teams would get a little nervous. And I think there's a reason that, I've heard that the SEC doesn't really want to take Will Wade back into the conference, not just because of his previous infractions, but he's the guy that comes into the room and he'll shake the table a little bit. And so I think he will make other ACC coaches nervous. And especially when you hear behind the scenes that the NC State NIL collective has really been rallying the troops. They want whoever the coach is, and we do expect it'll be Will Wade. They want head coach Will Wade to come into this program, hit the ground running, and have the type of resources to compete with some of the top spending teams in the conference. We're talking the Dukes, the Carolinas, the Louisvilles, the Miamis. They want to be able to run with the rest of the pack, I guess, pun intended, Wolfpack. They want Will Wade to come in and have whatever resources he needs to have to feel comfortable to win from year one, to win from day one. And so his aggression matching the fan base aggression and the booster aggression, the collective aggression, it feels all like a perfect storm. And so we are just waiting desperately for this news to go public.
Oh man, that would be neat right there. Cause like, that's a huge win. But I was thinking about like a coaching candidate, like in case you can't get Wade, what if you got Ryan Odom from VCU?
So it's funny you mentioned Ryan Odom. Very early in this search, which really it's only gone on for about a little over a week now, Ryan Odom's name came up often. And in fact, there was a lot of reason to believe that he would be a leading candidate for our athletic director, Boo Corrigan. They actually have familiar ties. Boo Corrigan used to have a really good relationship with Ryan Odom's dad, Dave, way back in the day. And so there's reason to believe that there would have been a very easy connection to make to bring Ryan Odom to NC State. I mean, I would have been happy with Ryan Odom, to be quite honest with you. I think he's a phenomenal coach. He's having a really good season with VCU. He's going to be in March Madness here. He won the A10 tournament. His history, obviously, he was the first ever 16 seed to win a game in March Madness at UMBC, knocked off number 1 Virginia. He's got the pedigree. He has the success, not just at UMBC, but Utah State and now VCU as well. He's a winner. And so I think he would have done well at NC State, but the thing for NC State, and it kind of ties back into what I was saying with Will Wade, they're desperately looking for a home run hire. They want a great white shark to come in and run this program. And I think the personality match with Wade was just a lot stronger than it would have been with Ryan Odom. And I guess under the table, I've heard a lot of buzz about Ryan Odom to Virginia anyway. So maybe that came, maybe that's the cart before the horse regardless. But I personally, I would have been happy with Ryan Odom, but I won't be surprised if we end up having to play him next year when he's at Virginia.
Oh man, like that would be cool right there. But I kind of feel like Ryan Odom will have better options than Virginia. Like,
So I've heard some Virginia buzz. I've also heard some Villanova buzz because that job also just came open. Kyle Neptune was relieved of his duties
you're
up
out.
there in close to Philly. So that might be something to keep an eye on. If I had to guess, I'd probably say Odom will lean toward Virginia, but I could be wrong. I mean, Villanova's got 2 recent national championships. They have a very clean program, very prestigious program. I could definitely see him being a good fit there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if I want to win, if I want to have an easier shot at winning, I'm going to Nova. But if I want
I don't hate that.
stay close home, go for a challenge, going to Virginia. And it's like the Tony Bennett era. I mean, that's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like Virginia's been kind of sloppy this season. It's like that's not from what I've seen in recent years.
There's a handful of these, but that was a game that NC State completely threw away this year. I think we had like a 14 or a 15-point lead on the road in Charlottesville, still found a way to blow it. I really was surprised to see the way that Tony Bennett stepped away from the program so close to the season tipping off. And I know they had a ACC tip-off, which is the media day for the conference in Charlotte, 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the first game of the season. Tony Bennett was there. So if he was locked in, that close to the season beginning, for him to step away, it kind of just left the whole program in disarray. So I was a little bit surprised at the fashion in which he decided to, I guess, hang him up for the time being. We'll see if he comes back to the sport or not. But I think you're going to see a kind of a domino effect in the way that some coaches they just don't want to deal with NIL. They just don't want to deal with the transfer portal. And Tony Bennett certainly cited both of those reasons as to why he stepped away.
Oh man, it's like my co-host on Alabama with the Voice College Football. He's got a lot of venting sessions about the portal.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's just like, but that's what they're turning. He's like, I know. Let's go.
It's a new world for all of us to navigate.
True. It's like, no worries, good buddy. But the football program, 2024 was a very disappointing season. And I mean, I think part of it had to do with Grayson McCall getting hurt.
For sure.
And it's like you expect to lose to Tennessee, but it's like Clemson, man. And Northern Illinois, that was a close win. I mean Thomas Hammett get out of there, Ed. Northern Illinois was letting the Notre Dame win go to their heads, obviously, because like we saw like Thomas Hammock on every show, every podcast we could find, like promoting the Northern Illinois program, and like Northern Illinois got a little focused on that, lost to North Carolina State, but I'm seeing like close loss to Wake, Syracuse, 1-point win over Cal, dominating Stanford. 10-point loss to Duke, 1-point loss to Georgia Tech, and you lose the Military Bowl to East Carolina. But you do get to own North Carolina, which I mean, Although I'll be honest, I thought it was dumb that North Carolina fired Matt Brown and didn't let him coach the bowl game. I mean, if you gotta let him go, fine, but
Yeah.
at least let him coach the bowl game.
If absolutely nothing else, it's extremely nice to own the Dirty Foot Club for the 4th consecutive year. And to see Mac Brown go, some NC State fans are actually sad to see him go because we have owned him for the last handful of years. But, the bigger picture of NC State's season, to go 6-6 last season when a lot of the talk in the preseason was about competing for an ACC championship, or if you do even better than that, potentially you find yourself in the college football playoff. And the season just never really got off of the ground, even from game one. You see at the very top of the screen, Western Carolina. The score may deceive you a little bit, but that game was close. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think NC State was losing entering the 4th quarter. And that was a shock to many, considering the way that we overhauled the entire roster, brought in a ton of very exciting transfer athletes. And to struggle so much in game one, it kind of just set the tone for the entirety of the season. You see there week 2, you get your absolute doors blown off by Tennessee. That game was in Charlotte. I was there, and I've never seen a game deteriorate so quickly. And I think that game, it was just a couple minutes before halftime. The score was 10-3, and McCall threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen for a pick six. Tennessee capitalizes on it, 17-3, and I think I end up kicking another field goal right before half, 20-3, and then it was off to the races for the Vols. So those 2 games really set the tone for the entirety of the season, and the team just couldn't quite get it gelled, close enough to be consistent. Obviously, McCall did get injured in that Wake Forest game, and that was a big detractor on why we could not end up coming back to win that one, even though we probably should have anyway. But to run in a freshman quarterback, CJ Bailey, for the rest of the season, it was kind of a project year, and then that was extremely disappointing to have to try and stomach, considering we were talking about potential championship aspirations. So any way you cut it or slice it, it was a failure of a year. It was a very disappointing year. You hope that a lot of growth can be taken going from last year into this year. But I'll also say this, to finish the season with that bowl loss against ECU, gross. PU, disgusting, yuck. Those 2 fan bases, NC State and ECU, we do not get along at all. For anyone that's not familiar with this region of North Carolina, we hate each other. And so for NC State to lose that game, we kind of make the joke, and I'm sure you see it across really any fan base ever, but when you have one team that has a lot more success than the other, the term Super Bowl gets thrown out a lot. And NC State kind of tried to pose it that way. Oh, this is the ECU Super Bowl. You guys are going to get up to play us. And we acted like we were better than them, and then they embarrassed us in the bowl game. So that left a very sour taste in an already sour season. Funny enough, though, we open the 2025 season against none other than ECU. So we're going to get another crack at them. Hopefully much better results this time around. But yeah, just a very disappointing season, and you just hope that they learned a lot from it.
Man, I cannot wait for North Carolina State ECU on Thursday Night Football this year. That's going to be fun. And it's like a couple of the past games I keep thinking about are 2008 when North Carolina State upset East Carolina. That was when like Russell Wilson was a freshman there. And then 2010 ECU's upsetting North Carolina State on CBS Sports Network on October 17th of 2010. That was in week 7 of the season. It was like, oh no.
Yeah, we've had a very strange relationship with ECU over the years. They've had, kind of weirdly like very competitive games, and not to throw a ton of shade, but NC State, you feel like should be a lot more competitive than playing a 1-point game with ECU, but it happens weirdly way more often than it should. And a lot of NC State fans still have PTSD from the last time we went to Greenville, and ECU probably should have beat us. They missed a chip shot field goal, and we ended up winning. That was 2022. They missed a chip shot field goal. We were preseason like 10 or 13 or something like that. Should have lost, but we didn't lose. And the fan base's animosity for each other has really taken off like to another level since that point. And so our most recent meeting to be a loss in the Military Bowl, it's disgusting. And so there's a lot of I guess what's the word? Negativity, I guess you should say, toward the head coach, Dave Doran. And so I do think that puts him almost pretty firmly on the hot seat when you're looking at 2025.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like I was just thinking about 2022 matchup against East Carolina, where it's The extra point just a bit outside for ECU. Tried the corner over there.
Yeah,
But
I still can't believe he missed that field goal. I thought for sure that the whole season was in the tank with the aspirations that team had as well. But I guess we'll always take a W. But man, some W's are a lot prettier than others.
well, when they brought on Dave Doreen after the 2012 season, North Carolina State was thinking, "Oh, we're going to get 10 win seasons. We can finally end the ACC title drought, which dates back to 1979 from the Bo Ryan era."
Right. Yeah,
So,
the elusive 10-win season has been almost like the boogeyman for Dave Doran in Raleigh. He has not achieved it yet. We're working on, what is it? I think year 12 or year 13 here. He's been really close a couple times. He's won 9 games, I think twice or 3 times. He probably should have had a crack at 10 games. If you, I don't know if you count a bowl win as a 10th win, but should have had it at least a chance against UCLA the COVID year, but UCLA backed out last second, didn't get the opportunity. So the 10-win season has eluded Dave Doran the entire time in Raleigh. And that's been a really big contention point for a lot of the fan base, because some people just don't feel like we're really getting anywhere. We feel like we've kind of plateaued at like that 8 to 9 win window. And after you do that for so long, people get restless. And, for a lot of the country, 8 to 9 wins, it's a pretty good season. But for NC State, in what has been a relatively, I guess you could say, down ACC conference, they feel like they've left a lot of opportunity on the table, kind of wasted a lot of chances to try and get to Charlotte, compete for an ACC championship. And so there's a lot of Wolfpack fans that feel burned by that. And for that reason, like I already said, I think Dave Doran may or may not be on the hot seat here in 25. I think if he can't find a way to make, I guess, lemonade out of sour lemons this year, you might see a coaching change in Raleigh.
oh yeah, because I'm looking at like Tom O'Brien's record, close but no cigar.
Right.
2010, all they got to do is beat Maryland. Florida State's just sitting there watching the game while they're playing Florida. And after Maryland's upsetting Russell Wilson and the Wolfpack on rivalry week, Florida State's high-fiving one another, right? And, like 09, 5-7, of course. 2011, like Russell Wilson leads 8-5. 2012, you pull off the upset of Florida State, but it's not enough to save your keister.
Right. Yeah, I think
So,
close but no cigar can basically categorize NC State for the last like 22 years. We won 10 games once with Chuck Amato, and that's when we had Phillip Rivers was our quarterback. That's the last time we've done it. It's been a long time. Ever since that point, it feels like every year almost feels like close but no cigar. So to further my point, Wolfpack fans are getting a little restless. We're getting a little tired of the taste of that cigar. We want another one. We want a bigger one.
well, and there's a game that's on my mind is going to Pitt, because if you got a good record, dreams could die at
Oh, yeah.
Pitt.
Yeah, the ACC games on the road for NC State have been a little bit of a mixed bag as well. Previously, up until I think it was at 2023, we've had a losing record in Winston-Salem going out to play Wake Forest, and so there's been a lot of road games that you feel like NC State should have had a better chance to take on, a good opportunity of, and it's been wasted. So I think on the road at Pitt is a really big one. Obviously, on the road at Notre Dame is going to be a big one. On the road against Miami is going to be a really big one. I think that earlier ish one against Duke on the road, that'll be a really big one. And, for NC State to have to play 3 ACC games within the month of September, you're going to have to figure things out really, really quickly. There's no time to get adjusted as the season goes on. If you have any hopes and dreams of having a decent season within your own conference, you got to be able to get it done from the word go. I mean, three of those games in September, that's a really big deal. So, I think you're going to find out pretty quickly if NC State is for real or not, maybe quicker than years past, but there's a lot riding on this season.
Agreed. I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. So let's see. So there's 3, 4, 5. 6. Oh man, I think one of the one of the conference games is basically counted as a non-conference game, but
That's correct. I should have noted that the Virginia game is actually non-conference. So that
that's
was
what
a
I thought. I
yep.
forgot for a
Yeah, that
moment.
was a deal put together, I think probably close to a year ago. So originally, NC State was supposed to play App State, and the ACC basically told all the teams within the conference that they don't want ACC teams to play G5 schools on the road because it hurts viewership. Obviously, it's a lot of money if you end up losing that game, and there's no real benefit to the ACC team. So that game got canceled, and it got replaced with this non-conference home and home with Virginia, which, in my own personal opinion, I do think it's kind of lame, but from a financial side and, trying to strengthen the conference, I get it, however lame it might be.
There goes my parlay bet of putting Appalachian State on my 5-leg one, but oh well, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we actually put another trip to App State on the books. I believe that's for 2028. That news came out just a couple weeks ago. I'm excited for that one. App State fans have
Don't tell
wanted to
the
play NC State.
ACC.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we'll have to find a way to hide it from the network for a weekend. But the App State fans have wanted to play NC State for quite some time, and vice versa. So I think eventually you'll see it more often. But if I'm not mistaken, App State will come to Raleigh not this year but next year, and then we'll make the return trip in 28.
Well, and spring practices here. Are we seeing a spring game, or is it going to be like a spring scrimmage? Because part of me is kind of thinking no news is good news for those that want to attend the spring game.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You see this, I guess I'll call it like an epidemic across college football now that coaches are deciding to take away the spring game, at least publicly. They won't televise it. Some won't even allow, public attendance into this game. NC State actually announced that they will not be having a publicly attended spring game. They
Mm.
also announced that none of their spring practices can be attended by the media. So I think it kind of reaffirms what I was saying about there being a lot of pressure on Coach Dave Dorn and the rest of this team here in 25. They want to keep everything in-house. They don't want any outside noise. They just want to focus on, learning the ball from both sides. You have two new coordinators, although one of them was an in-house guy. Kurt Roper is the new offensive coordinator. He was promoted from within. And then the new defensive coordinator is DJ Elliott. He was formerly with Temple, spent some time with the Philadelphia Eagles as well. So you have two new coordinators to learn from. A decent amount of new faces into the program as well. So I think it's fascinating that Coach Dorn really wants to focus on just the team. They feel like they have all they need, and they don't want anything to come in between them. No outside noise, no media attention, no publicly attended spring game. Obviously, there's some of the bigger programs across the country have followed suit. I know Nebraska and Matt Rule was very adamant about doing the same, but I'll be interested to see how much media attention the NC State football actually does get this spring. And I did see that Deion Sanders and Fran Brown are supposedly going to try and work something out for a spring scrimmage, which I think is a cool idea, but I don't expect NC State to do anything like that this spring.
Oh, that would help if you can do something like that. Like, both, all the schools benefit. Like, have the spring scrimmage be like against an FCS school. Like, that'd
Yeah,
be a
just
win, man.
just something. Because I think when you look at college basketball, they have these things called, secret scrimmages, closed doors to the majority of the public, but they're still doing it to benefit their own squad and refining some skills outside of, I mean, I could see there being an argument for injuries in the spring. You certainly don't want to have that before you get
No.
into the summer, but outside of the injury part of this, I don't see a real downside. You can use it as a fundraising opportunity. If you need funds for NIL, you can host a big spring scrimmage. Obviously, the fans are going to pack it out because everybody wants to see college football. I don't see a real downside to it, but I don't know. I guess when you do consider the injury note, that's probably enough to scare some coaches away.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And also it's just like not having the spring game. Come on. That's gonna take away the joy from the fans. They
Yeah,
got
it's
something
a
to look forward
tradition. It's a tradition, right? You want to get people excited for the program, and traditionally, the spring game has done that, and people are always clamoring to get into Carter Finley Stadium. It's one of the best, I would say, underrated atmospheres in college football, and fans love to be a part of that. And so, to feel like it's kind of getting taken away from us this year, it's a little disappointing. Certainly, there's reasons for doing so, but it's going to feel certainly different not having a spring game to watch here in a couple weeks.
I mean, like, what will people watch? Like pickleball? I mean, I don't think we're 70 years old just yet.
I don't know. I have to tune in some college baseball or something. I don't think the spring games were that heavily viewed anyway, but
True.
for for the common fan that needs that, needs that itch scratched by some college football, that was always there. And so to have that taken away, you're gonna have to find some other fix, whether it's MLB or college baseball or I don't know. I mean, college basketball will be wrapped up by that point. So you're gonna have to find something to do. I'm gonna have to find something to do. I don't even have an answer for myself yet.
Well, I know you'll definitely figure out something. I know I'll figure out something. But Major League Baseball, I just gotta tell you, like they are treated like crap by ESPN. It's like
It's amazing. I saw that deal fall through that basically ESPN's not even going to carry Major League Baseball
huh,
anymore. That was a shock to me. I guess better business for MLB Network now, but
dang.
myself, a kid growing up watching Sunday Night Baseball with John Miller and Joe Morgan, those days are obviously long gone. But for ESPN to just totally cut ties with MLB, it's shocking to me. And I don't think they did a very good job of covering it anyway. But just to fold it all together, it's definitely a changing of the times.
Well, and I think also like Joe Buck saying that he doesn't really want to call baseball anymore like he
Right.
used to. I think that was one of the sprinkles on the cake for the ESPN MLB relationship. And I'll be
Mhm.
honest, it's probably going to feel like the ESPN NHL relationship before ESPN got the National Hockey League back.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty solid comparison. And me personally, I like Joe Buck a lot. I know he gets a lot of hate from people,
Right.
but I never really understood the majority of the hate. He's a big game voice, and so I hope he doesn't go away from baseball altogether because I crave the time of year in late October when I hear Joe Buck calling an ALCS game or World Series game. So I really hope he doesn't go away from it altogether. But I do get where he's coming from. I mean, if the spotlight's not going to be on the sport, I would imagine for him, it might even feel like a little bit of a waste of time, and he'll just focus on football.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like he will be back to college Super Bowls, which it's gonna be. Let me see. Super Bowl 60 will be the 2025 season. The 2026 season will be Super Bowl 61. It'll be on Valentine's Day of 2027.
Valentine's Day, I did
Uh,
not know that.
yep,
Uh-oh. That's gonna
Valentine's
cause
Day.
problems for some relationships, I'm sure.
Nah, they'll be all right. They'll be fine. I don't think it's gonna hurt relationships that much. And if it was hurt relationships, it probably wasn't that strong to begin with. But
They weren't the one anyway, if you can't watch the Super Bowl on Valentine's Day.
exactly. And I think and it's gonna be like the first Super Bowl since the '05 season that it will be on ABC. First time ever
Hmm.
Super Bowl is aired on ESPN, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to say the least. I really enjoy the CBS broadcast. I know Tom Brady gets a lot of hate, but I think over time he'll only get better being a broadcaster. But yeah, we'll have to see where this thing goes with ESPN and possibly Joe Buck in the future. I'm all for Joe Buck. I'm a big Joe Buck guy, so
Same.
more Joe Buck is definitely okay with me.
Man, like when the Braves won the World Series in 2021, I was like loud, obnoxious loud. Like when they
Some of my closest friends are Braves fans, and they were losing their minds. I was so happy for them.
oh man, it's like I lost my mind when we won when the Braves won the National League. I was like, yes, yes. I mean, I'm just playing loud music till like midnight, 1 a.m. But then it's like World Series, boom, they win it all. I hope they win it all 2025, but it's just another World Series. I'll be happy seeing the Braves get one.
Biggest thing is if Acuna can stay healthy. I mean, that guy blowing out a leg every other year. If you can keep him healthy, I feel like you're always going to have a shot. But I think, yeah, biggest thing for the Braves, and I'm not even a Braves fan, but I know enough about them from my friends. If they can stay healthy and keep the band together, so to speak, a lot of players from that 21 season have kind of gone on to greener pastures, so to speak. But if they can keep that core together with guys like Ozzy Albies and keeping Acuna healthy, and I think Spencer Strider is now getting healthy. I saw him thrown off a mound a couple days ago. If they can keep everybody healthy, they're always going to have a good shot.
Oh man, that'd be neat. It's like take the NL East away from the Phillies and the Mets. Don't let them have any.
I tell you what, Juan Soto going to the Mets is going to make for some interesting television, to say the absolute least.
Oh man, who's your team in Major League Baseball, by the way?
I'm a Red Sox guy, so it's been a little bit
Oh,
tough here
man.
recently.
I had on Gabby from Locked On Red Sox in July. I
Oh,
remember.
did you? Yeah, she does a great job. No,
Amazing.
it's been kind of tough for the Red Sox here recently, but Alex Bregman, I thought that was an awesome addition to the team. I think he'll do a lot of good for us, whether it is at third or short or wherever they end up playing him, because I know Rafael Devers was not overly thrilled about it. I think Trevor Story's health is going to be kind of a story as well, but overall, I'm excited to see the pitching staff. And Garrett Crochet, that guy is an animal. He can run it up there at 100. And another guy, if you can keep him healthy, I cannot wait to see, what the rotation can really look like over time for the Red Sox. I have some eyebrow raising about Lucas Giolito, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm really feeling a good amount of buzz about this year's squad in 25, and hopefully they can be a lot more consistent moving forward.
Oh, man. It's like the Red Sox have earned the hype. The Yankees, I mean, yeah, they made it to a World Series last year, but if they want to earn back that hype, they can't be living off 1927 or
Uh,
1926.
don't tell them that. They're not going to change their minds. 27 rings, bro. 20. Yeah, that'll never change.
Oh, man, it's like I bet if you want to trigger them, bring up 1960 Game 7. Oh, God.
To bring up 04 as well. That's my personal favorite.
Oh my God, that was historical. The ALCS, and it was never done until that series happened.
Made history.
Man, it's like I'm gonna have to go look in the storage unit for that World Series 2K5 2K6 PS game. I have it somewhere, but it's got like a DVD of the past World Series, like the 62 World Series, the 85 World Series, where Al Michaels calling that. Hey, if NBC or Amazon Prime gets MLB, maybe Al Michaels can get some good games to call again.
The return of Al Michaels.
Yep. I just want to hear him go, and it's caught. It's caught by Mookie Betts.
That's a great impersonation.
Oh, thank you. I've got a few more of them up my sleeve. Well, all righty, man. For those who want to tune in to Locked On Wolfpack and want to give you a shout out on X or Instagram, where can they find you, good buddy?
You can find us on Twitter or X at Locked On Wolfpack. The majority of our work will be found on YouTube. We also tweet that every day from our page, but our YouTube page is also Locked On Wolfpack. Our Twitter is LO_Wolfpack, as you see there on the screen. Anytime anyone has any questions that are Wolfpack related, or you want to get a taste of the fan base, hopefully some exciting times here in the next couple of weeks, feel free to check us out. We're hoping the NC State could be a lot more consistent in, football, basketball, everything here moving forward. And so, that's where you can find us.
There you go. Give Locked On Wolfpack a follow and a shout out on Instagram and @/Twitter, and subscribe to them on YouTube. Let's help them get to 3,000 subs. And also give our guy Grayson 1,000 followers on @/Twitter. He is 12 followers away as of this episode of the Jacksonian.
I didn't even know that.
Huh?
You're doing the research for me. I didn't even know that.
I did my best. I mean, that's my job here for this show. It's like do the research on everything, because if you don't, then, well, I guess I'm in trouble.
Jackson, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. It's always a good time on here.
Oh, same, man. Likewise. And you can also give Grayson a follow on Instagram. And of course, I do a little something else besides the Jacksonian right here on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube and on @/Twitter on Jats VOCFB. Alabama with the Voice of College Football, where I co-host Crimson Tide Live with Coach Johnny Burtz and Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports, 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday nights. And Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports and I take your calls, 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, where we discuss our takes on the latest news and notes on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And then you can also like, comment, subscribe to my personal channel on Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 104 subs away from that magic number 500, and we're going to get to 1,000 subs. We'll need all the help we can get. And for more updates on what's going on the Jacksonian and Alabama with the Voice of College Football, check me out on Jackson VOCFB on @/Twitter. and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543-909. And with that being said, there's also the latest edition of Crimson Tide Live, where we talk a little bit about the Bama way, the Bama standard. I do give Malachi Moore a little bit of crap because he wasn't giving the Bama way. I compared it to Bubbles going hardcore on the Powerpuff Girls, where like Blossom and Buttercup are like, that's not the Powerpuff way. That's not the Powerpuff way. But I digress. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss no video or episode whatsoever. And we will see you soon. Good night, everybody.